It's the afternoon of August 9th, 2023. Russian Mi-8 with a crew of 3, pilot Maxim Kuzminov, flight engineer Nikita Kiryanov, and navigator Khushbakht Tursunov take off from Kursk airfield. At 4:30 p.m., their cargo mission begins with the aim to quickly deliver a few fighter jet parts from one Russian Air Force base to another. However, two of the crew members are still unaware that their routine flight is a part of much bigger Ukrainian operation that very few countries ever attempted to execute on their adversary. The name of the operation is Synytsia, or TIT in English. Meanwhile, the helicopter flies towards the border, deviating from the intended route. Above Shebekina village, Mi-8 descends to extremely low altitude of 5 to 10 meters and turns off all communication devices to disappear for the Russians. At the same time, small arms fire opens up from the ground and the helicopter is insignificantly hit. The pilot, Maxim Kuzminov, is wounded in the leg but continues the flight for another 20 kilometers. Without hesitation, he crosses the border of Ukraine and soon lands in the Kharkiv region. The crew is met by agents of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, and Maxim Kuzminov meets people with whom he secretly conversed for over a half of a year. He also unavailingly tried to convince the other two crew members to surrender during the flight. Both of them, however, upon landing, start acting aggressively and attempt to run towards the border, leaving Ukrainian operatives no choice other than the elimination. Mi-8 Tasha, built in 2016, which will soon join the Ukrainian aviation fleet as it was only significantly damaged, also carries the components for the Russian Su-27s, Su-30s and Su-35s. Apart from the main cargo, it also carries valuable documentation about Russian Air Force missions in the area. The pilot is not taken into custody as a prisoner of war, but is freed and allowed to choose what to do next. The Ukrainian government, by a law rewarding voluntary transfer of combat-ready equipment from Russia, pledged a monetary compensation of $500,000, safety to Kuzminov and his family in Ukraine, and the right to choose their place of residence and work. Even though he served in 319th Separate Helicopter Regiment of the 11th Army of Air Force, Kuzminov never executed combat missions in Ukraine, but only delivered cargo. At the same time, he was threatened with being sent to the front line as an infantryman in the case he decided to break the contract with the Russian Ministry of Defense.
Летчик может уволиться?
Очень проблематично и с угрозами того, что тебя просто потом отправят в пехоту, и все, ты будешь лучше там реально выполнять полет и летать, да, чем просто идти в пехоту и погибнуть там.
Motivated by the understanding of the brutality of unjust war, Kuzminov sought a way out, eventually contacting representatives of the GUR through the channel I Want to Live in March 2022. After that, his family received assistance from Ukrainian intelligence to safely leave the territory of Russia, and the mission with his evacuation by helicopter was developed as well.
Что послужило моим, так сказать, толчком, да, к моему решению? Это полное осознание, полное понимание всего того, что происходит. Вот. И я для себя решил, что это преступление самое жестокое. Я для себя решил, что я просто не буду принимать участие в этом, как бы то ни было. Да, у меня в России остался самолет, да, у меня там, в принципе, относительно неплохая зарплата, там 2 квартиры, почти пенсия, да. Меня много чего, по сути, держало там, но сейчас это для меня это не важно. Для меня самое основное было не участвовать в этих преступлениях. Вот. Я был подписан на паблике Главного управления разведки в Телеграме. Вот, читал, интересовался информацией, что происходит, как. Вот, и там под постами были контакты. Вот, я обратился, мы создали секретный чат, вот, и начали, собственно говоря, переписку.
It's also worth mentioning that planning took so long due to immense complexity of choosing the right moment. In this sense, Synytsia is extremely reminiscent of the Operation Diamond that was carried out by the Israeli Mossad operatives in 1966, who convinced an Iraqi pilot to steal MiG-29, then the most modern aircraft in the Soviet arsenal. Even though Operation Synytsia added incomplete success, further developments, however, arguably put shadow on it. In February 2024, a man's body is found in the underground parking garage in the city of Villajoyosa, Spain. The victim of the multiple gunshots is confirmed to be Maxim Kuzminov. At the time of his death, Kuzminov was living under the assumed identity of Igor Shevchenko, but by some accounts invited his significant other, which likely was a fatal mistake. If these rather rumors are true, it becomes quite clear how Russian intelligence services have managed to execute their revenge. Nevertheless, Ukrainian GUR officials highlighted the operation Synytsia as the first successful one of its kind in the Ukrainians' history, expressing hope for scalability in the future. The events surrounding it showcase the determination of individuals to resist participation in unjust wars and the successful collaboration between defectors and Ukrainian intelligence. The fact that Russians have managed to get to Kuzminov afterwards, of course, makes it less likely that the number of defectors will grow. At the same time, however, Ukraine showed that it keeps promises and will indeed accept defectors, rewarding them with monetary compensation and further opportunities to begin a new life in Ukraine or abroad.